I am here in Nashville, and I wanted to do a nice episode for you guys today. So it's January 24th, and the New Hampshire primary ended last night with a Trump victory, which, we all kind of knew was going to happen. He won at 54%. It makes me very happy that he was able to conquer Nikki Haley in that way, although it's just a two-person race. There's still Super Tuesday to go. So if he stays in for Super Tuesday, which of course he is, and Nikki Haley is going to return, we are going to see a very big battle for, you can say, the soul of our nation, but really for the Republican primary, which Trump will win. After Trump wins, it's going to go to the general election. Joe Biden has already put his support behind himself and started putting his resources once again against the Republican Make America Great crowd. And it's kind of a shame because I wanted to read this quote that he posted after the last week's victory. He basically said, "Looks like Donald Trump just won Iowa. He is the clear front runner on the other side at this point. But here's the thing. This election was always going to be me and you versus extreme Make America Great Again Republicans. It was true yesterday. It'll be true tomorrow." Now, chances are he did not write that script. He did not get the words together himself and post it on his personal Instagram account. Now, the press secretary, I'm not going to try to pronounce her name, the one with the French name, she was basically caught red-handed posting a pre-written quote that was supposed to go on Joe Biden's Twitter account on her own. It was a gaffe. She deleted it. No big deal. But what that shows is that there are other staff members who are writing for Joe Biden. So he's been the most puppet president we've ever seen either. They're basically writing his script and putting it out on his social media as if it's him saying that Make America Great Again candidates are the enemy. And he was supposed to be the president who is the adult in the room and to unite the country. But the very first words he spoke, and from someone who loves politics and has been following it for years, it's like when he spoke and he said that America was systemically racist, he's calling out all white people, which is a majority of the United States, and saying America as a country is systemically racist against minorities. Are we really, when we have let millions and millions of migrants from South Africa, Asia, Europe come live, work in our country, live among us? No, we're not racist. He wanted for there to be division in the country. And does anyone remember when he had the red backdrop that he promised he would never use with military armsmen, all very Hitler-esque, in their military gear, calling Make America Great Again Republicans domestic terrorists? Well, he did that. They've also called homeschool parents domestic terrorists. Just anything that would actually get at the grip of what our country stands for, which is independence. If you want to be an independent thinker, you are on his chopping block or his administration's chopping block, however you want to put it. So with that said, of course, he was going to come out with a claim like this. He's basically telling people who have the mind virus of his administration that your neighbor, if your neighbor is a Republican and they're a Make America Great Again Republican, they are fundamentally terrorists and they're fundamentally us versus them. There's no getting along with them. There's no going out to dinner with them. There's no sharing a handshake. There's none of that. He wants it to be us versus them. With that said, there's nothing more divisive, and he's been the most divisive American president in American history. We've also seen this is the first time a former president who has not served 2 consecutive terms have come back in the office to face off against his rival as a rematch. It's been 100 years. So a lot of people are looking at Trump as the incumbent, as the king in waiting. And he's always been called the kingmaker because of everyone he basically supports in primary elections, in general elections for governor, has won. So he is someone the American people look at who's being politically prosecuted through all these phony indictments with Stormy Daniels, the porn star, and the overinflating of his properties in order to get more cash for his businesses. Yeah, it's very something because all of these are happening at a time where the primary election, it's going to interfere with him showing up to the primary events and fundraisers and even meeting with other candidates who have endorsed him and speeches. They want him to be in jail and they want him to be unable to basically do the duties of a candidate who's running for president. This opens up a whole other can of worms. Yesterday I spoke about this, that when a banana republic happens and this country allows a Democrat president and his colleagues put all kinds of indictments against a political rival, they would leave Trump alone if he wasn't running again. Joe Biden himself said that he was going to be like a bridge president. He was only going to serve one term. He was only going to run again if it was versus Trump. A lot of people would say that the governor down in California, Governor Newsom, would make a better president than Joe Biden, and definitely a better speaker, younger, better nominee for the Democratic Party. But he chose not to run, set this one out for Joe Biden. Another person that we have to really look at is RFK. He has been on multiple media outlets because what he is claiming is that the system's rigged on the Democratic Party, that when you do not host debates, if you want to continue to be president, a lot of times they run unopposed, but this president has had many people oppose him. And all of these candidates came at a point where the DNC was like, we are not going to let President Biden get on the stage and debate these guys because he would fall apart. He would have a complete meltdown of words. He would not be able to conjure a sentence. As you have seen the last 3.5 years, he has not been able to do any of those things consistently, shaking hands with ghosts, etc. He's not the type of person who can debate. And because of that, RFK said, well, I'm going to go independent because they're not going to give me a fair shot. It's like no one knows the candidates who ran in the primary against President Biden, and that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted for the average Democratic voter, which I honestly think the average Democratic voter is a follower and isn't smart and educated anyways, to look at a ballot, see a bunch of names they don't know, and say, oh, well, I know who President Biden is. I'll just vote for that guy. Anyways, they will not let him have a successful campaign. So we're at a precipice of our country. And if Joe Biden gets away with any of this stuff, it sets the president for another president, no pun intended, to use the same justice systems to prosecute their political opponents. And do you want to see a world where there's a Republican and a Democrat, and the Democrat beats the Republican, and then the Republican tries to rerun and just get indicted like crazy? It would be, I think it's unconstitutional. I believe we as the people have the right to stand up against a government who is using tyranny to win elections. I believe that it's already gone too far, and it could happen again. The Democrats have also, for the longest time, been altering the vote. A lot of times people believe it happened with the 2020 election and the Dominion systems. And yes, they mailed out more paper ballots than there were citizens in states. So the people who got a hold of those ballots just filled them out and stuffed ballot boxes. And there's so many video evidence that has come out since 2020, not only suggesting, but actually showing the crime itself of stuffing ballots. So another thing that they have done to try to steal this election and try to get away from Donald Trump is Iowa allowed Democrats to change their registration to Republican only 24 hours before the Republican primary in Iowa. So a lot of these Democrats who switched to Republicans said that they were not going to vote for Joe Biden in the election. A lot of independents did it too. Now, you could just say there are a bunch of independents who say, I'm going to vote for Nikki Haley. Or you could say what a lot of people are saying is that these Democrats are trying to throw Trump off the main ballot that's going to be happening in November by getting Nikki Haley elected instead. So imagine this. You get 6,000 Democrats who want to go along with this, and they switch their voting registration to Republican just during the primary to get Nikki Haley elected as the nominee, and then switch back to Democrat to vote for Joe Biden. Well, that's what's happening all over the country. It's happening in Iowa and New Hampshire. These Democrats are temporarily changing their voting to Republican to try to throw Trump off the ballot. And it's a fact because none of these people, when they had their exit polls, said that they were going to be voting for Joe Biden in the general election. So why would you switch? Well, they're not long-term Republicans. And if they were switching, it would be for Trump because he's the guy to beat, not the guy who is at the very bottom of the poll. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you believe that Democrats are temporarily switching their votes to Republican to vote for Nikki Haley to take Trump off the main ballot in November? Or do you believe that thousands and thousands of Democrats have had a change of heart and wanted to vote for a Republican who is not the former president, but who's Nikki Haley just because they like them as candidate, or if it's a part of a bigger voter fraud scam? Let me know in the comments, and we'll see you on another episode of Right Politics.